Hi, I'm Bridget, and thank you so much for joining me for day 19 of 30 days of 10 minutes of yoga. And we're going to get started today in our Malasana, our yogi squat. So it can help to come to a forward fold first. So bringing the feet about hip width distance apart, hinging through the hips and rounding forward. Then we'll walk the feet just a little bit wider and turn the toes out at about a 45-degree angle, then sinking the hips down, bringing the elbows to the inner sides of the knees, and then bringing the hands to heart space, using those elbows to press the knees open. Breathing deeply here, sinking the hips down towards the mat, nice and tall through the spine, so drop the shoulders away from the ears, nice and long through the neck. And then while we're here, we're going to keep the knees pressing keep the elbows pressed. I always get knees and elbows confused. Keep the elbows pressing the knees open. And then we're just going to take a couple of rolls of the wrists. We're going to be working towards a little challenge here today with our crow pose. So we're just going to warm up the wrists, take a couple of circles one way and then the other. Staying with the breath here, moving nice and slowly, slowing down that breath, deepening the breath. And then bringing the hands back together to heart space, taking another couple of nice deep breaths here. And then we'll slowly lower the hips back down to the mat. We're going to come all the way back to lie down. And we're going to work on waking up the core a little bit here. So the stronger you are through the core, the more you've got those muscles turned on, the easier it will make that hold in our crow pose. So we're going to interlace the fingers, bring them to the back of the neck, and then find our upside down kind of tabletop. So we're going to stack the knees above the wrists, stack the knees above the wrists, stack the knees above the hips, and then bring those shins parallel with the ceiling, with the mat. And we're going to flatten out through the lower back here. So if you feel there's a little bit of space underneath your back, we're going to squish the lower back down towards our mat. If this feels like a little bit too much, then you can bring the knees in towards you a little bit more, and it will make that hold through the core muscles a little bit easier. Breathing deeply here. You might see if you can press the knees a little bit further away from you. Holding through the core muscles. And then we'll start to move with the breath. So on an exhale, we'll lift the chest, lift the shoulders away from our mat. See if you can keep those knees away from you. Elbows are nice and wide. Inhale, we lower. Exhale, moving with the breath. We lift the chest, lift the shoulders away from our mat, and inhale, we lower. So we're moving really nice and slowly here. Exhale, we lift and hold at the top. Inhale, we lower back down. We'll take 5 more just like that. Exhale to lift. Inhale to lower. Exhale to lift. If it feels too easy, press the knees even further away from you. Exhale to lift. I can't remember what we're up to, but we'll do 2 more after this one. Moving with the breath. And lower all the way back down. Bring the feet back down to the mat. We'll take a couple of windscreen wipers here. Drop the knees down to one side, over to the other. Stretching out through those core muscles. And then calming back to center, we're going to make our way into our boat pose. So coming back up to seated with the knees bent, we're going to bring the hands behind the knees and then start to lift the feet away from our mat. So see if you can keep the shins parallel again with the ceiling and flatten out through the spine. So you might feel like you want to round back a little bit. See if you can keep the chest lifted, which can be a little bit tricky. You kind of got to find the exact right point to balance on. Then you might like to try reaching the hands forward. Ooh. You can drop the feet as you need to. Find that nice point of balance where you can keep the chest lifted. Nice and strong through the core, nice and strong through the legs here too. Ooh. And then we'll bring the feet back down to our mat. We're going to come all the way onto all fours and then step the feet back into our plank. So warming up those arms a little bit more, practicing that hold. So let's spread the fingers really nice and wide here. We're pressing down into all 10 fingerprints, all 10 knuckles, which is really important just to protect the wrists because we're going to be putting our weight into the hands a little bit here. So step the feet back. Draw the shoulders away from the ears, nice and active through the core. Draw the belly button up towards the spine, tuck the tailbone under. Breathing deeply here. And then on an exhale, let's hug the elbows in towards the body and see how slowly we can lower all the way down to our mat. Nice and slowly, we practiced this one yesterday. When you get there, we're going to come all the way back up to plank. So you can come up through tabletop if you would like to. Otherwise, try tucking the toes under, pressing those arms back up to plank, holding for 3 nice long deep breaths here. Nice and strong through the arms. Breathing deeply. And then again, let's see how slowly we can lower down to our mat. Hug the elbows in towards the body. Take a nice deep breath when you get there. We're coming all the way back up to plank. 3 nice deep breaths when you get there. Nice and strong through the core. Hug that belly button back. And then on an exhale, let's lower really slowly all the way down to our mat. Coming down onto the belly. We'll take a cobra when we get there. So press down into the palms underneath the shoulders. Press down into the tops of the feet. And then we press to lift the chest. Exhale, we'll lower. We're going to make our way all the way back up onto all fours. So you might like to walk the hands back into a little toe squat here first, just so that you can give the shoulders a little roll. Back and forth. Slowing down the breath. Might like to take a couple of rolls of the neck. And then we will start attempting our crow pose. We're going to make our way to our crow pose. So I'm going to come back up into that yogi squat that we started with. You might like to come into that forward fold first and then sink the hips back down. Then I'm going to bring the hands at about shoulder distance apart. I'm going to lift my hips up into the air and bend into my elbows. So when I was learning how to do crow pose, I used to try and draw my knees as close up to the shoulders as I possibly could, and then activate through the core. So we'll try it that way first. So we're going to bend into the elbows. So send the elbows back. So the arms are parallel here, elbows are pointing back, fingers are pointing forward. So we're going to lift the hips, see if you can draw the knees all the way up into the shoulder points and start to send the weight forward. Then we're going to see if we can maybe lift one foot away from our mat, maybe the other. So just practicing with that, sending the weight forward. Might take a couple of tries to just work out where those knees need to sit so that you can find the space to lift both feet away from your mat. Really pressing down into all 10 fingerprints. The other version of this that I sometimes like to do now, so you just kind of need to do a little bit of trial and error. So either drawing those knees all the way up to shoulder points, but to make it a little bit easier on the arms, we're kind of going to try where we stack the bones a little bit more here. So it's the same thing with the arms, sending the fingertips forward, elbows are pointing backwards, but we're going to stack the knees above the elbows. so that when we lift our feet away from the mat, our legs are kind of stacked right above the forearms. Sending the toes back. So again, you might just like to try lifting one foot at a time, activating through the core, pressing down into all 10 fingerprints, then maybe try lifting both feet away from your mat. So there's two kind of variations that you can play with there. Just kind of depends what feels best in your body. I really do find that stacking the knees above the elbows can help quite a bit. And it gives you a little bit more space to move to. So you can hang out and just play around with your crow pose. Otherwise, if you would like to end your practice here with me, we're just going to come into a nice, comfortable seated position, whatever works best for you. Closing down the eyes. Relaxing the shoulders down. But I hope you enjoyed that little crow pose practice here today. And I'd love for you to let me know if you got both feet off the mat or if it's something you're going to work towards. Otherwise, we're going to close our practice here with that nice, long, deep breath together. Inhaling the hands up and overhead, bringing the palms together. And exhaling the hands down to heart space, bowing through the head and the neck. The light in me recognizes and honors the light in you. Namaste.